Recording in progress.
Tafshin Lamed Ches. I believe this was a little bit unusual that the Rebbe would set a mimer in connection with a fast day. It's not a mimer that the Rebbe said on Shabbos. It wasn't what's called a Yom Pagra, a time that usually Chassidim farbreng. It was the night of a Tuesday night in the middle of the week, going into Asara B'Tevis. So it's a mimer on this week's parsha. Yehuda, Yehuda, your brothers will praise you, accept you, admit to you. And the Alter Rebbe explains in Torah at the beginning of our parsha. Why is he called Yehuda? Because Leah said when she gave birth that now I will thank. Or Oida is also on a deeper level from the word Haida, admit and accept Hashem. It's the level of the admittance and acceptance that's in the general neshamas of Yid. Meaning every Yid has this innate bittul, Kabbalah's oil, accepting of Hashem beyond intellect and so on. That being said, though this is innate within us, but there is often a process to reach that state of, the ideal state of bittul that every Yid has within him. So that this admitting, this bittul, should be in a way of revelation, it's through your brothers. That's what he's explaining here in our mimer, a little bit different perspective and nuance than what we learned earlier in the week, that Yehuda, to reach Yehuda, and that's only through Achecha, Yeducha Achecha, when you have the level of your brothers preceding Yehuda. So just like in birth order, first it was Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and then Yehuda. So too, to reach the avodah of Yehuda, you need to have the avodas of your brothers prior to that. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, like he's going to explain. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, ha'achim shel Yehuda shenodim lefanov, the brothers of Yehuda that were born before Yehuda. Zeu yeducha achecha, that's what it means. Your brothers will make you be Yoda. They will bring you to a state of Haidah. Sha'achecha, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, your brothers, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, they are the causes, they bring about the level of the admittance and bittul of Yehuda. Shetia bezgalus, it should be in a way of revelation. So obviously, first we have to explain what Reuven, Shimon, Levi is about. And over there in Torah, the Alter Rebbe explains, Reuven v'Shimon, who inyan beis parshas the Kriyashma, Reuven and Shimon correspond to the two parshas of Kriyat Shema. The Levi who inyan emes v'yatziv shalachri Kriyat Shema. Levi is emes v'yatziv that follows Kriyat Shema. V'ideze boy macharkach l'Shemoneh Esrei. Afterwards we come to the level of Shemoneh Esrei, b'chinas ha'idoya v'abitl b'chinas Yehuda, the level of the admitting of the bittul of the level of Yehuda. So, in other words, it's in the order of the children, it's in the order of Avodas Hashem, and it's simply in the order of davening, that in the order of davening there's Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and then in davening we finally reach the level of Yehud. So he's going to explain why in the connection between Kriyat Shema and Shemoneh Esrei and so on. Actually, Shemoneh Esrei, I don't remember that here in this mimer he says, it's a given, like we also had in the previous Mamarim, that Yehuda is the level of bittul of Shemoneh Esrei. In last week's Mamarim, that Shemoneh Esrei Tefillah is bittul. He stands ka'avda kamamari, the ultimate level of bittul. Oizbeis, the idea behind this is kimavur b'Torah Hashem, like it's explained over there in Torah. Dine Reuven al Shem Kira, Reuven is called because he saw. Shimon al Shem Kishama Goyim. Why is Shimon called? Because he heard. In other words, these were the terms that Leah used to describe the naming, that because Hashem saw my affliction, Hashem heard my suffering, and so on. So we see that the actual name of Reuven has to do with seeing, and Shimon has to do with hearing. So what does that mean? Avodas Hashem vinyan, avodas Hashem b'chol echad v'echad Yisrael, in every single yid. Bechinas Reuven, the level of Reuven, who shavidosu l'kainoi, he loy bechinas hasaga levad kim bechinas re'iyam. His service to his maker is not just in a way of comprehension, but rather his connection, his appreciation of Hashem is in a way of sight. His verification and sureness of godliness, from the word emes, the truth of godliness by him is in the ultimate surety and the ultimate verification. Similar to a person that sees something, and when you see something, it's impossible to have any doubt about it, because he himself witnessed it, and as the Mamorim often bring down, that's the reason why Ein Eid Nasa Dayan, a witness cannot become a judge, because a judge needs to be able to find ways to find the accused innocent, and if he saw it, there's no way that he'd be able to find in his mind any innocence, because this is like can't be moved from him. So what does that mean in avodah? Valderach so avodas Hashem, similar to this, it's an avodah of Hashem, shizbon shaloi, that his meditation, ubefrat beinyan dashgacha pratis, particularly when it comes to thinking into the topic of divine providence. And in the footnote, the Rebbe says, why specifically does he point out this idea of the concept of divine providence? Because divine providence is something that we actually see with our senses, as brought down in Chassidus. When it comes to, let's say, yesh me'ayin, the creation, yes, you can think about it and understand it, but divine providence, especially someone like the Yomim says, that a businessman could see divine providence, because he literally sees cases where things are what's called in English synchronicity, that things fit in so well that there was a direction and a directive over here that some way had to be directed. So you're practically seeing it. So that is a type of meditation that you could practically see it. He ba'ofen the histaklus, it's in a way where he actually looks at it, he examines it, he sees it. The matter becomes so clear by him, and so true by him, and so verified by him, as if he's actually seeing this with his physical sense of sight. So that is the level of Reuven's meditation. So what results from such a type of meditation? From such a type of seeing godliness, he comes to a level of loving Hashem. Like it also says concerning Leah calling the name Reuven, naming him Reuven, Ki ra goimer, that Hashem saw my suffering and so on. Goimer, Ki ata yehevani, now he will love me. Even though Leah was talking about Yaakov Avinu, but we see the association that the pasuk puts together sight, vision with love. So when a person's appreciation, understanding, and comprehension of godliness is so powerful as to be in a way of vision, so then the resulting avodah is love. So now we can understand why we said at the beginning that Reuven has to do with the first parsha of Krishma. This is the first parsha of Krishma. As a the first parsha of Krishma is about loving Hashem. There's nothing about, Hisham Lachem Pen, like we'll talk about in the second parsha. Shimon, and the level of Shimon al Shem Kishama, that he was called Shimon because the Leah said that he heard, that Hashem heard. His avoid is in the way of hearing, and we know the word hearing does not just mean hearing with the ear, but hearing is a concept of understanding. Like it says, we have daber kishamei avdecha, that the idea of the word hearing indicates understanding. Nasav and Ishma doesn't just mean we will do and we will listen, but rather we will do and we will understand, etc. So we speak about Shimon exemplifying the avodah of hearing. That means it's a comprehension of Elikus, but just understanding, just with intellectual understanding without the idea of vision. Since he's then in a state of distance, top of the next page, similar to a person that hears a particular thing that he's being told, but he himself did not see it. The difference between seeing and hearing, both hearing in the literal sense of hearing, or in hearing or understanding about something, is even more so that when you see something, it needs to be up close. You can't see something that is too far away from you. And definitely you cannot see something on the other side of the world. You cannot see something that is at a great distance. You cannot see something that happened in the past, see something that happened in the future. Hearing, but, covers much distance. So since Re'iyah, vision, seeing, is about close up, hearing is about from far, therefore, by the person that understands, that has a level of hearing, Shimon, that's a level of the line of fear and awe. That is the result of fear and awe. When a person is in fear and he's in awe of something, so he pulls back. It's at a distance. When a person is in a state of love, love is closeness. Love brings together. Fear pulls away. So that's why hearing, which is at a distance, has to do with yira. Love, which is close up, has to do with vision, which is close up as well. And back to the parshas of Krishma. V'hu'inyan parsha shneir de Krishma. Vision, love, is the first parsha. Hearing, fear, is the second parsha of Krishma. V'hayim shemaya tishmu. The second parsha of Krishma begins with those words. If it'll be when you will hear. And what does he talk about over there? Hishamru lochem pen yifta. Guard yourself, watch yourself in case you become talked into to do something wrong. Since godliness by him is not in the way of vision, that it's something that has the truth of something that he sees with his own eye, if it's in his mind's eye at least, but it doesn't have that type of verity by him, so it's only something he heard about. Therefore he has to have the avoid in the line of awe and fear. Guard yourselves, first of all because it's distant, but also because over here there's a greater likelihood of the person to fall prey to his Yetzer Hara. Therefore we need to warn him, be careful, because that is the nature of when you only hear about something and you don't see it. Third level, B'chinas Levi al Shem Yilavi Isha Ilai, and the level of Levi, which is because that Leah called him Levi because now my husband will accompany me. Umasha Achar Krishma Oimlim Emes V'Yatzav V'Chulu. After Krishma we recite and we say Emes V'Yatzav Hadavar Hazel Leinu. This matter is true and set and established upon us. What is this matter that is set and established with us and upon us? So Hadavar Hazel Koyal HaTorah. What is that truth that he's referring to? It's going on Torah. Because through the Torah it becomes that my husband will accompany me. So Therefore, that's the level of Levi. As we said, Levi is emes v'yatzav. And he's going to explain as it goes on, what does it have to do with Torah? Why does a company have to do with Torah? So he says in Ois Gimel, the explanation of this matter is the Hine, Gimel B'chinas Hanal, these three levels, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and Gimel HaKavim Shaleim HaOlam Oimen. These are the three lines upon which the world stands. Now, when we talk about the world standing, there is the world in the big sense, our world, or say the Ishtalshlus, the whole creation, but also Gamma Olam Kotten Adam, also the micro world, the miniature world, which is the person, and Atem Krim Adam, the Yidden are called Adam. So the person stands upon, he exists, he is supported by the three lines of Reuven, Shimon, Levi as Torah, Avodah, and Gmil Sasad. He just now explained that Reuven, Shimon, Levi is Re'iyah, Shmiya, and Torah, Parshish Rishoina, Parshish Shniya, Emes V'Yatziv. Now he's going to connect it with the three columns, the three lines that every Yid must have. Where does it fit in? So the Rebbe associates it as follows: Bechinas Reuven, Ava, Hukava, Gmil Sasad. The level of Reuven, which is love, that is the line of doing acts of kindness. What is the love of Reuven? Kiavani Ishi, the first part of Krishma, Vahafta. Why is that connected with Gmil Chasadim? Gmil Chasadim is about doing kindness to others. Why does it have to do with the love of Hashem? Because when a person has a love of Hashem, he has also a love of a fellow Yid. Because the loving of Hashem and the loving of Yidden are really entirely one. Like it's brought down also in the Yom Yom, that if you love the Father, then you love his children. You love whoever the Father loves. So therefore, if a person has a love for Hashem, as it's engendered by the Avodah Reuven of seeing godliness, therefore his Avodah is in the line of doing acts of kindness. Love is the cause of kindness, and it's the inner level of kindness. Now, there is the emotion and there's the action. The emotion is the motivator. It's the inside, it's the life force of my action. Then there's the action. Gemilas Chasadim is doing acts of kindness. That's the external. What motivates the external Gemilas Chasadim? What's the pnimius of it? Ahava. So because a person has a love for Hashem, that extends now to Avos Yisrael, and Gemilas Chasadim is just the outer shell of that love. And that is also known as Amshachim al Ma'ila. That, the level of Chesed, the level of love, is drawing down from above to below, because that's the idea of Hashpah. The higher level comes down below. The level of Shimon, which is awe, that is the line of the lines of Torah. It's the line of service. Service used to go on the times of the Beis HaMikdash, the avoid in the Beis HaMikdash, and now it's the idea of davening. Kavas Moil, which is also the left line, because that is, like Yisum can explain, halom el matalamayla, like fire, which is the level of Gvura, that comes from below to above. Yira is the left line. It's from below to above. So even though in general davening is the Kavas Moil, but still in all, there's a difference between the first parsha and the second parsha, like we said. But Tefillah Gufa, in parsha near the Krishma canal, and davening itself is specifically the second parsha of Krishma, like we said before. Then the second parsha of Krishma, there is this level of Yira and the Kavas Moil. Halam al Matalamayl. Now we're getting back to Levi. Levi, we said, is the idea of Torah. How is that? Levi al Shem Yelavi Ishi Alai. Why was Levi called Levi? Because now my husband will accompany me. Ukava Torah, that is the line of Torah. Because through the Torah, Yidden and Hashem are entirely one. So that means that the true accompaniment of Yidden with Hashem being our husband, how does that happen? Through Torah study. That's the idea that my husband will accompany me. Through the Torah becomes a joining with my husband, that's Hashem. Till the Yidden and Hashem are entirely one. That's the idea of the level of Levi. Is the idea of emes v'yatziv hadavar hazeh. It's this matter. Shekai kanal Torah. It's referring to Torah. So Torah is the level of Levi. So now we explained everything leading up to Yehuda. That these three things will make Yehuda reach his bittul. Yoiducha achecha. They will make, your brothers will make you reach the bittul yoiducha of Yehuda. Ois Dalet. That's what it says, that Yehuda, your brothers, will bring you to Haidam. The avoid of the levels of your brothers. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, Beis, Parshas, the Krishma, Emes, V'Yatziv, the two parts of Krishma, and Emes, V'Yatziv. It's an introduction, a preparation for the Yehuda. Avoid the Shemoneh Esrei, the avoid of Yehuda, the Shemoneh Esrei, Haidoyo, Bittul. It's a state of admitting and acceptance and Bittul, Ka'av, the Kamamari, like a servant before his master. Shah Bittul, the Tfil Sa'amida, who Bittul, Betachlis, Lamayla, Game, Bittul, the Kriya Shema. That the Bittul of Shemoneh Esrei is a total Bittul, even higher than the Bittul of Kriya Shema. So the Rebbe says, even practically, we see that Shemoneh Esrei has this higher Bittul than Kriya Shema. Like it's known, the different halachas concerning what, for what, and in what circumstances you may interrupt when you're reading Kriya Shema versus when you may interrupt in Shemoneh Esrei. Then Shemoneh Esrei, it's very, very severe halachas about that, much more than Kriya Shema. Why is that so? Because the bittul of Shemoneh Esrei is a much higher and much deeper state of bittul. On top of the fact that the very fact that by Kriya Shema we're sitting down, and by Shemoneh Esrei we're standing up with our feet together, totally like a servant at attention, expresses that idea of bittul of Shemoneh Esrei so much more powerful than Kriya Shema. This idea that through the avoid of Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, we reach afterwards to the level of Yehuda, the fourth son of Leah. While it's similar to what's known in the three crowns that it's brought down in Pirkei Avos. There's Keser Tehoida, Keser Kahuna, and Keser Malchus. These three crowns of Torah, Kuna, and Malchus are in the three lines of Torah, Avoida, and Gemilas Chasadim. And then it says, V'keser Shem Tov, Oil al Gabeim, a crown of a good name is upon them. Shuhu Lamayla Mehem, the crown of a good name is higher than them, but why is it upon them? Because you need to use those other three crowns to be able to reach that crown. To reach the level of the crown of a good name, why they gim laksarim through the other three crowns of the Torah and Kahuna and Malchus, and then Oil al Gabeim, you go on top of that. The same thing. Yehuda needs beforehand the levels of Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Now the Rebbe is going to introduce in Ois Hey that even though you need Reuven, Shimon, and Levi beforehand, but that is only to create a revelation of it, not for the very thing itself. Ois Hey, the fact that the level of Yehuda needs to be first prefaced by the avoid of Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. That's only to be able to manifest and express the level of Yehuda should be revealed. But concealed and internally, this admittance and acceptance and bittul to Hashem is there by every Yid constantly, as we mentioned at the beginning of the Maimer, that every single Yid has this level of Haidah. I think we mentioned it over here at the beginning of the Maimer, if I remember correctly. So he says, like explaining the Torah, Shayud the Yehuda. Why is there a Yud of Yehuda? If you're talking about Haidah, so maybe it should have been called Huda, Haida. Why is there a letter Yud? Moira ala hoive vatmidus. The Yud, as a prefix, a Lashon Kodesh, indicates something that is in present tense and constant. Like it says, so Eve did and does all of his days. So by adding the letter Yud to the beginning of the word Haida, Haidah and Bittul, that means this admittance, this Bittul of a Yid, that's in every single Yid, that's constantly there. But hold on a second. If you look at what Leah said now, meaning it wasn't there prior. The Masha Kosova Pam Oidesavaya, what it says now, this time I will have the Bittul to Hashem, Shaloi Kola Itim Shavis, which indicates that not all times are the same. Not all the time is there this Bittul. That's only concerning the revelation of the Bittul that's in every Yid. It's at hell of Hester Aguf and Afshabam is because of the concealment and covering of the body and the animal soul. Befrat mitzad hell of Hester Agolis, especially so because of the concealment and covering of the exile. But the godly soul that's in every single Yid, that is the true being of every Yid. His nefesh habamis is only something secondary. It's always been faithful to Hashem. And his admittance and acceptance and bittul to Hashem is constant, not just now. It's not applicable to any type of change, heaven forbid. So therefore, why is it necessary for Reuven and Shimon and Levi to precede the avoid of Yehuda? It's only to awaken that level of Haidah that's in the inner heart should be revealed. Not that they have to create it. So much so is it going to be awakened that it's actually going to influence his action. It's going to come out from potential to actuality. That he will think, speak, and act in accordance with this bittul of the Pnimius Halev. Now he goes on to the next part of the pasuk. He continues in the pasuk, your hand is in the neck of your enemies. Is through the revelation of this bittul of the level of Yehuda, now becomes your hand is in the neck of your enemies spiritually. Like the matter is explained in Torah, what that means, the enemies. And then the Rebbe says, is also the physical. Your hand defeats the enemies. That our enemies are defeated through this bittul that we have today, Bishter. The ein mikra yotzim de pshutoy, that the pasuk does not leave a simple pshat, that it means that it will become, your enemies will be destroyed. After saying that, it says, Gur Yehuda lo yasser shevet mi Yehuda, that Yehuda is a lion, a cub. The rulership will not cease and not leave the shevet Yehuda. And we could say, possibly, the connection over here is this idea that your hand is in the neck of your enemies is even before the Geula with Mashiach. When it says that the staff will not leave Yehuda, Koyal David v'Shloima, it's referring to David HaMelech and Shloima HaMelech. Shemizaram Yeh Melech HaMashiach, that from their offspring and descendants will be King Mashiach. Shall of Nemar become Shevet Mi Yisrael, that about Mashiach it says there will arise a staff from Yisrael. That's what it says, Lo Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda. It's referring to Mashiach coming out of David and Shlomo. Shaz Yivavli David Melech Aleim, then it will be my servant David will be a king over them. David Avni Nasalam Loilam, and David my servant will be a leader over them forever. The Shabbos over, like it says in the Haftarah of last week. My name is Baruch and Kol Yomin, that last week's Haftarah, all the days of the following week received their blessings, so therefore this influences this week as well. The Rebbe says, if Lo Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda is talking about Mashiach's times, and prior to that in the pasuk it says Yad Chabayr V'Vecha, so therefore it should have said the other way. First, Lo Yasser Shevet mi Yehuda, Mashiach is going to come, then Yad Chabayr V'Vecha. But the fact that it doesn't say it that way, it teaches us that Lifnei Zebesims Mana Golus, before that, I mean at the conclusion at the time of Golus, Yad Chabayr V'Vecha, your hand will be in the neck of your enemies. Shekol Oive Yisrael, all the enemies of Yidden. Shekol Yisrael Nikraim Al Shem Yehuda. All Yidden are called by the name of Yehuda. So even though it says your enemies going on Yehuda, it's referring to Klal Yisrael's enemies. Tipa Aleim a Masa Afachet should fall upon them a fear and a trembling fear. And how does that take place? Through the revelation of the bittul. That's in the general Neshamas Yisrael. Until it actually comes out in thought, speech, and deed. When you go in my laws and you follow them and you observe my mitzvahs, through that will be like the continuation of the psukim of parts b'chukoisai, that your enemies will fall before you. Zayin and the Maimer. Shloimar, we could say the Zelgam Keshet Yehudati Duchakecha. Yod Chabayr V'Vechel B'Chiyak Bert Mitzrayim. This is also the connection between this bracha that Yehuda received to the beginning of our parsha that says that Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim. Shagam Kishi Yisrael Nimtzoyim Begolis, even when Yidden find themselves in exile. Shekol HaGolis HaMalchus Nikroim Al Shem Mitzrayim. The Chazal say all the exiles, all the kingdoms that enslaved the Yidden are called under the name of Mitzrayim. Heim B'Bchinas Vayichi. Yidden are in the state of being alive. How are they alive? Through the study of the Torah, which is a Torah of life, and the fulfillment of its mitzvahs, aleim namar v'chayba, that concerning the mitzvahs it says you shall live with them. Like the explanation of the Alter Rebbe, that he told his grandchild at Tzemach Tzedek, on the pasuk Vaychi Yaakov, Yehuda shalch lefon of Gomer lahoylus lefon of Goishnas, through sending Yehuda before him to teach in Goshen, Lahaskin, Beis Talmud, to establish a place of study, a Beis Medrash, a yeshiva. They were in a state of being alive, also Mitzrayim. Through that becomes that Yehuda, your brothers, will bring out your praise, your bittul, and then your hands will be in your enemy's neck. Chazal say the association between Torah and defeating one's enemies. When the voice is the voice of Yaakov, what's unique about the voice of Yaakov? That we gather in the shul to daven, and we gather in the yeshivas to study. Ein yedei Esav sholtos, so then the hands of Esav cannot rule over the Yidden. Yisayim is even more so. The nations of the world themselves assist the Yidden in all physical matters. That they'll be able to study Torah and fulfill mitzvahs out of comfort, in a way that it increases, and in the Torah study it increases in light. This light pushes away the darkness of the goals, so maybe Sagulai the Mashiach that came and brings about the redemption through Mashiach. She will come and lead us pride to our land, speedily our days, Mamash.